The Ottoman Empire stands out in history as one of the most influential and long-lasting civilizations, recognized for its formidable military power, magnificent cultural achievements, and at times for a brutality that today seems alarming. One of the most intriguing and disturbing aspects of its legacy is the variety of punishment methods it employed during its extensive reign. Although these punishments may seem inhumane by modern standards, they were common practices in many ancient empires. These methods not only aimed to punish offenders but also to deter others from committing similar crimes, thus consolidating the Sultan's authority and maintaining social order. What were these methods, and how did they impact Ottoman society? The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was one of the most enduring and expansive civilizations in history, existing from the late 13th century to the early 20th century. Founded by Turkish tribes under the leadership of Osman I, the empire quickly expanded, covering vast regions of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Its capital, Istanbul, became a hub for trade, culture, and political power, consolidating Ottoman influence across multiple continents. The political structure of the Ottoman Empire was characterized by a centralized system of government under the Sultan, who exercised absolute control supported by an efficient bureaucracy and a powerful army. This centralization of power allowed the empire to maintain cohesion across its vast territories, but it also fostered a rigid and sometimes ruthless administration to ensure obedience and stability. The brutality of the Ottoman Empire can be attributed to several historical and socio-political factors. The constant threat of internal rebellions and the resistance of diverse and multifaceted populations forced the Ottomans to adopt severe tactics to maintain order and authority. Additionally, competition with other contemporary empires such as the Habsburg Empire and European powers heightened the need to demonstrate military and political strength through strict and sometimes brutal methods. The ethnic and religious diversity within the empire also played a crucial role in its authoritarian approach. The need to manage and control multiple groups with different cultures and beliefs led to the implementation of strict measures to prevent dissent and ensure loyalty to the Sultan. This environment of rigid control and severe responses to opposition contributed to the reputation of brutality that characterizes the Ottoman Empire in history. Decapitation in the Ottoman Empire, a symbol of power and control. Decapitation was one of the most commonly used and notorious methods of execution in the Ottoman Empire, reserved for a variety of serious crimes, particularly those that posed a direct threat to the state or acts of severe treason. This punishment not only physically eliminated the offender, but also served as a powerful tool for maintaining control and authority within the empire. Decapitations were carried out with a swift stroke of a sword or axe, demonstrating the efficiency of the Ottoman judicial system in administering justice quickly and decisively. These acts were performed in public squares, becoming spectacles that drew large crowds. The presence of the population at these executions had a profound impact on Ottoman society, serving as a visible reminder of the consequences of challenging established authority. A notable case of this method of punishment was that of Sheikh Bedreddin in 1420. Bedreddin, a former Ottoman judge and mystic, led a rebellion against Sultan Mehmed Brund, promoting social and economic reforms that resonated with peasants and the discontented sectors of society. His movement represented a direct threat to the stability and authority of the Ottoman state. After his forces were defeated, Bedreddin was captured and brought before the Sultan. Despite his status as a religious scholar and former judge, Ottoman authorities considered his actions a severe act of treason that could not be overlooked. His decapitation in the city of Serez, modern-day Serez in Greece, was carried out publicly, serving as a tangible deterrent to others who might consider challenging Ottoman rule. The public execution of Bedreddin not only eliminated a rebel leader, but also reinforced the perception of the Sultan as a figure of absolute and unshakable power. By witnessing Bedreddin's death, many potential rebels were deterred from rising against the state, fearing the severe consequences awaiting them. Additionally, the display of the condemned heads, either as trophies or as evidence of victory, reinforced the image of an invincible and ruthless Ottoman army. This practice not only demoralized the enemy, but also solidified the empire's reputation as a formidable military force. Thus, decapitation was not merely a means of punishment, but a multifaceted strategy that the Ottoman Empire used to maintain order, demonstrate its power, and deter any form of resistance. This method, though brutal, reflected the empire's priorities regarding the consolidation of power and social stability, crucial aspects for the survival and expansion of such a vast and diverse entity. Falaka in the Ottoman Empire, discipline through pain. Falaka, a method of corporal punishment, was widely used in the Ottoman Empire as a tool to discipline soldiers, slaves, and even students. This punishment involved beating the soles of the feet with a rod or stick, inflicting intense pain that could incapacitate the victim from walking for days. Although at first glance falaka may seem less severe compared to other methods of punishment used by the empire, its effectiveness lay in its ability to cause significant suffering without leaving long-term visible scars. Falaka was often administered in public, amplifying its deterrent effect. The number of strikes varied according to the severity of the offense, allowing the authorities to adjust the punishment proportionally to the crime committed. The visibility of this punishment in public spaces not only punished the individual, but also sent a clear message to the community about the consequences of challenging established authority. This public approach ensured that the fear of punishment acted as an effective deterrent, maintaining order both within the military and in society at large. The main purpose of falaka was twofold: on the one hand to serve as a means of strict discipline within the military ranks, and on the other to maintain social control in a society as diverse and vast as the Ottoman Empire. By inflicting pain without causing permanent damage, falaka allowed authorities to enforce discipline without leaving physical marks that could become symbols of resistance or discontent. This balance between severity and temporality made falaka an ideal tool for maintaining cohesion and obedience without fostering long-term resentment. The impact of falaka on individuals was profound. Victims not only suffered immediate physical pain, but also experienced public humiliation that affected their social status and personal dignity. The temporary inability to walk served as a constant reminder of their transgression, encouraging them to adhere to established norms to avoid future punishment. Socially, the visible presence of falaka reinforced the authority of the state and the sultan, ensuring that the population was aware of the consequences of any deviant behavior. Eye gouging in the Ottoman Empire, a terrorizing punishment. Eye gouging was one of the most terrifying methods of punishment used in the Ottoman Empire, reserved for those who committed serious crimes against the state, such as treason or espionage. This punishment not only aimed to physically incapacitate the offender, but also served as a public warning to deter others from committing similar crimes. According to the accounts of Evliya Çelebi, a notable Ottoman traveler and chronicler, eye gouging was often carried out in public squares, transforming the execution into a spectacle intended to shock the population. The condemned person would be immobilized, and their eyes would be removed using sharp instruments, in an act that left the individual completely defenseless. This method of punishment not only deprived the offender of their ability to see, but also symbolized their total exclusion from society and their inability to fully participate in communal life. The act of gouging out the eyes had a profound symbolic impact. In a society where vision and perception were fundamental to active participation in the community, the loss of sight represented a social and personal condemnation far more severe than death. This punishment removed any possibility of reintegration into society, marking the individual for life as a traitor and an outcast. Moreover, the brutality of this punishment reinforced the authority of the sultan and the state institutions, demonstrating that no transgression would go unpunished. The public execution served as a constant reminder of the state's power and the severe consequences of defying its authority. Although specific records of individuals who suffered this punishment are scarce, the mention of figures like Sheikh Bedreddin highlights the gravity with which the Ottoman Empire dealt with its most dangerous opponents. Bedreddin, although primarily known for his decapitation, represents the type of figure who could have also been subjected to severe corporal punishments like eye gouging in extreme cases. Hanging in the Ottoman Empire, public execution. Hanging was one of the most common and widely used methods of execution in the Ottoman Empire, reserved for serious crimes such as murder, theft, and rebellion. This punishment not only had a retributive purpose, but also served as a powerful tool for deterrence and social control, consolidating the Sultan's authority and maintaining order in a vast and diverse empire. Hanging in the Ottoman Empire was generally carried out in public spaces, such as major city squares, to maximize its impact and serve as an example to the population. The standard method involved the use of a rope or a pole, depending on the severity of the crime and specific circumstances. In some cases, more brutal variations were employed, such as the use of hooks or special posts, which prolonged the victim's suffering, thus increasing the deterrent effect of the punishment. The public execution of hanging had a profound psychological effect on Ottoman society. By witnessing the death of a condemned person, the population internalized the severe consequences of defying the laws and authority of the state. This spectacle not only punished the offender but also created an atmosphere of fear and respect for the judicial institutions and the sultan. The visibility of these punishments reinforced the perception of an invulnerable and merciless state power. Essential for maintaining social cohesion in an empire with a diverse and multifaceted population. During the Jalali rebellions in the 16th and 17th centuries, many rebel leaders were publicly hanged as a way to suppress the insurrection and deter future rebellions. High-ranking officials and functionaries who committed acts of treason or corruption were often hanged to demonstrate that even those in positions of power were not exempt from punishment. These cases reflect how hanging was strategically used to maintain order and authority, ensuring that the consequences of challenging the state were clear and severe. The use of public hanging had deep social and political repercussions. By executing prominent individuals and those representing significant threats, the Sultan reaffirmed his authority and showed that no transgression would go unpunished. This type of punishment served to prevent future rebellions and maintain social order, ensuring that the population understood the severe consequences of defying the laws of the state. Moreover, the display of the heads of the condemned as trophies or evidence of victory strengthened the reputation of the Ottoman army as a formidable and merciless military force. This symbolism not only demoralized the enemy, but also consolidated the image of the empire as an invincible entity capable of imposing its will without mercy. Amputation in the Ottoman Empire, corporal punishment. Amputation, especially of hands or feet, was one of the most severe corporal punishments used in the Ottoman Empire. It was primarily reserved for thieves and those who committed acts of rebellion. This punishment not only had a devastating physical impact, but also served as a powerful symbol of control and social deterrence. Amputation in the Ottoman Empire was carried out in public settings, such as markets or city squares, to maximize its deterrent effect. The condemned person, whether a repeat thief or a rebel, was brought before a crowd before suffering the amputation of a hand or foot. This public act underscored the severity of the crime and reinforced the harsh consequences of breaking the law. The amputation process was quick and efficient, carried out by trained officers to minimize the victim's prolonged suffering. However, the visibility of the punishment and the public humiliation added an additional layer of psychological punishment, ensuring that the act served as an example to others. Amputation served a dual purpose: to physically incapacitate the offender and send a clear message to society. By permanently depriving an individual of a limb, the Ottoman state eliminated their ability to commit future crimes, especially those related to theft or rebellion. Additionally, the loss of a hand or foot was seen as a permanent mark of dishonor and failure, affecting the individual's social status and personal dignity. The sight of a thief with a missing hand in a market or public square served as a constant reminder of the consequences of defying the laws of the state. This method of punishment sought not only to rehabilitate the offender through pain and incapacitation, but also to maintain social order through fear and deterrence. Although specific records of individuals who suffered amputations in the Ottoman Empire are limited, there are mentions in chronicles and historical accounts illustrating the prevalence and severity of this punishment. For example, during various internal uprisings, leaders and key participants were subjected to amputations as a way of removing their ability to lead future insurrections and as punishment for challenging the Sultan. In urban and commercial areas, the amputation of hands was a common practice for those caught in theft or fraud, ensuring they could not commit further crimes and serving as a warning to other merchants and citizens. These practices reflect a judicial administration that prioritized prevention and control over rehabilitation, using corporal punishment as an effective tool for maintaining cohesion and order in a vast and culturally diverse empire. Emasculation in the Ottoman Empire. Extreme punishment. Emasculation, which involves the removal of male genitalia, was one of the most severe punishments in the Ottoman Empire. Primarily used as a political reprisal or to punish serious sexual crimes, This method aimed to strip the individual of their masculinity and social status. By permanently depriving a man of such an essential part of his body, the Ottoman authorities sought to incapacitate him physically for future criminal acts while simultaneously socially stigmatizing him. This punishment was applied to individuals considered a direct threat to the established order, such as traitors, rebel leaders, or high-profile criminals. Emasculation not only had devastating physical consequences, but it also represented a public humiliation that deeply affected the dignity and honor of the condemned in a deeply patriarchal society. Historical records about emasculation are scarce, but it is mentioned in chronicles such as those of Evliya Çelebi, which describe cases where this punishment was applied to political opponents and high-level criminals. The brutality of this method reflected the Ottoman Empire's determination to maintain its authority and control by physically and symbolically eliminating its enemies. Unlike other corporal punishments that could be temporary, emasculation had permanent effects, ensuring that the individual could not fully reintegrate into society or perpetuate their lineage. This extreme punishment underscores the rigidity and severity of the Ottoman judicial system, where loyalty and adherence to imperial laws were crucial for the stability of the empire. Impaling in the Ottoman Empire, a method of terror. Impaling was one of the most infamous and horrifying execution methods used in the Ottoman Empire. This punishment involved impaling the victim's body with a sharp stake, usually starting at the rectum and exiting through the mouth or chest, resulting in a slow and torturous death that could last hours or even days. This method was reserved for the most horrific crimes, such as severe treasons, rebellions, and high-profile murders. Although Vlad the Impaler is the most famous figure associated with this practice, the Ottomans also employed impaling as a tool of terror to maintain control and suppress resistance in conquered territories. Executions were carried out in strategic and visible locations, such as public squares or empire borders, to maximize their deterrent effect and serve as a clear message of relentless power. Impaling not only eliminated the offender in a brutal manner, but also had a profound psychological impact on the population. The visibility of this extreme punishment reinforced the perception of the Ottoman Empire as a formidable and merciless military force, capable of imposing its will without compassion. This method served to demoralize enemies and deter potential opponents from challenging the state's authority. Devshirme in the Ottoman Empire, forced recruitment of youth. Devshirme was a central practice of the Ottoman Empire aimed at recruiting Christian youths from conquered provinces to serve in the empire's administration and military. Implemented from the 14th century to the 17th century, this system involved the forced extraction of children, generally between the ages of 8 and 18, from their families in territories like the Balkans. These children were converted to Islam and subjected to rigorous military and administrative training, preparing them to become janissaries, the Ottoman military elite or government officials. The devshirme process began with the collection of children during specific seasons, usually in the fall. Imperial officers selected the physically strongest children with potential to serve the state. Unlike other systems of forced recruitment, devshirme sought to create a force loyal directly to the sultan, as these young recruits had no familial ties within the empire that could challenge their loyalty. For the recruited children, devshirme represented a brutal separation from their families and communities. Although it offered opportunities for social advancement and education, the reality was that many experienced extremely harsh conditions during their training. A lack of personal freedom and physical and mental hardening were common, ensuring that these youths became disciplined soldiers and efficient administrators. Devshirme played a crucial role in consolidating Ottoman power, creating an elite military and administrative class that depended exclusively on the sultan. This not only strengthened the empire's structure, but also minimized the risk of divided loyalties among various religious and ethnic factions. However, this practice also generated resentment among Christian populations, contributing to social and cultural tensions in Ottoman provinces. Although devshirme was abolished in the 17th century, its legacy endures as one of the most controversial and significant practices of the Ottoman Empire. It represents a combination of administrative efficiency and coercive brutality, reflecting the complexity of the Ottoman imperial system and its approach to maintaining control and loyalty within a vast and diverse empire. The suppression of the Jalali revolts, brutality at the heart of the Ottoman Empire. One of the most brutal confrontations in the history of the Ottoman Empire was the Jalali Revolt, a series of uprisings that took place between the 16th and 17th centuries. These revolts originated primarily in Anatolia and emerged as a response to adverse economic conditions, administrative corruption, and social oppression. The leaders of these uprisings, known as the Jalali, sought to reform the imperial system and improve the living conditions of the local peasants and merchants. The Jalali revolts were numerous and prolonged, spanning several decades and regions of the empire. Factors such as inflation, poor harvests, tax pressure, and administrative inefficiency contributed to widespread discontent. The Jalali organized into local militias that challenged the central authority, creating a significant challenge for the Sultan and his military forces. To quell these revolts, the Ottoman Empire deployed an extremely harsh military and judicial response, reflecting the state's determination to maintain control and stability. Prominent leaders of the Jalali were publicly decapitated, a practice not only intended to eliminate the main organizers of the uprisings, but also to serve as a visible warning to other potential insurgents. These decapitations, carried out in public squares, portrayed the Sultan and his officials as figures of absolute power, discouraging the population from challenging the established authority. In addition to decapitations, captured fighters were subjected to amputations of hands or feet. This physical punishment aimed to permanently incapacitate the rebels, preventing them from participating in future uprisings or military activities against the empire. The amputations, performed publicly, underscored the seriousness of the offense and reinforced the message that any form of resistance would be brutally punished. Public hangings were also a common tactic used during the suppression of the Jalali revolts. Many rebels were executed in visible locations such as markets and public squares, which not only punished the individuals but also sought to instill fear in the general population. These mass executions served to deter any future attempts at insurrection, showing the severe consequences of defying imperial laws. Furthermore, falaka or flogging was used to punish those who had collaborated with the uprisings or to discipline prisoners. This method inflicted intense physical pain without leaving permanent scars, maintaining the appearance of a judicial system that sought to punish without causing irreversible damage. Falaka was applied publicly in some cases, increasing the psychological impact of the punishment and reinforcing state control over the population. The brutality employed in the suppression of the Jalali revolts had lasting repercussions on Ottoman society. Although these tactics succeeded in quelling the uprisings and reaffirming central authority, they also generated deep resentment and distrust toward the government. This resentment exacerbated social and economic tensions, contributing to a continuous cycle of discontent and resistance within the empire. The Armenian Genocide, the ultimate expression of brutality in the Ottoman Empire. The Armenian Genocide is one of the darkest and most brutally efficient episodes in the history of the Ottoman Empire. Between 1915 and 1923, approximately 1.5 million Armenians were systematically exterminated through a series of extremely violent methods. This genocide not only reflects the empire's capacity to inflict massive suffering, but also highlights the extreme application of torture and extermination methods as tools of political and social control. To understand the magnitude of the Armenian Genocide, it is essential to place it within the historical context of the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century. The empire, which had been one of the most formidable and enduring powers in the world, was in decline. Internal ethnic and religious tensions, combined with external pressures from the Allied powers during World War I, created an unstable environment. The Armenians, a Christian minority within a predominantly Muslim empire, enjoyed a prominent economic and social position, which sparked envy and resentment among some Ottoman sectors. The genocide began within the context of World War I, when the Ottoman Empire found itself militarily weakened and politically vulnerable. In April 1915, the Ottoman government ordered the arrest and deportation of Armenian leaders, marking the beginning of a systematic extermination campaign. Ottoman authorities justified these actions by alleging that the Armenians were an internal threat, collaborating with the empire's enemies, particularly the Russian powers. The genocide was carried out through a combination of forced deportations, death marches, mass massacres, starvation, disease, and forced labor. Each of these methods was designed to efficiently and systematically eliminate the Armenian population. One of the primary methods used was forced deportation. Armenians were torn from their homes and sent on long marches through inhospitable territories, such as the Syrian desert. These deportations were accompanied by death marches, during which thousands of Armenians died due to exposure, lack of food and water, and constant attacks by armed bands. The extreme conditions of these marches ensured that a large portion of the deported population perished before reaching their destinations. Mass massacres were another brutal method employed during the genocide. On numerous occasions, Ottoman forces carried out indiscriminate killings of Armenians in cities and villages. An infamous example was the massacre of Marash in 1915, where tens of thousands of Armenians were brutally killed by Ottoman soldiers and local militias. These massacres not only decimated the Armenian population, but also instilled terror among the survivors, dismantling any organized resistance. Many Armenians were sent to concentration camps where they faced inhumane conditions. These camps were located in desert and remote areas where the scarcity of food, potable water, and medical care resulted in a high mortality rate. Confining people in these camps not only physically eliminated individuals, but also shattered their spirit and will to survive. In addition to deportations and massacres, genocide survivors were often forced into hard labor under extreme conditions. They were sent to public works, mines, and other exhausting tasks that resulted in high rates of disease and death. Labor exploitation served as an additional form of punishment that further weakened the Armenian population and contributed to their disappearance. Hunger and disease were indirect but effective tools used to hasten the extermination of the Armenians. The lack of food and water, combined with the spread of diseases like typhus and dysentery, caused the death of many deportees. These conditions were often intentionally created by the Ottoman authorities to ensure the rapid elimination of the Armenian population. The impact of the Armenian genocide was devastating both in the short and long term. In the short term, the elimination of an entire population had a profound effect on the demographics, economy, and culture of the Ottoman Empire. Entire families were destroyed, communities were dismantled, and Armenian cultural heritage was severely damaged. In the long term, the genocide left deep scars on the collective memory of Armenians and contributed to the formation of a global diaspora. The social and political repercussions of the genocide were also felt in the final collapse of the Ottoman Empire and in the formation of the modern Turkish state. Additionally, the genocide set a precedent for future acts of genocide in the 20th century, serving as a warning about the dangers of ethnic and religious extremism. The international response to the genocide was limited at the time. While there were testimonies and denunciations, the international community did not take effective measures to stop the crimes. This was partly due to the global distraction caused by World War I and the lack of political will to intervene in the internal affairs of the Ottoman Empire. However, the recognition of the genocide has evolved over time. Today, many countries and organizations recognize the Armenian genocide, although Turkey, the successor to the Ottoman Empire, continues to deny that the events of 1915 constitute genocide. This disagreement has led to diplomatic tensions and has hindered full recognition and historical reconciliation. The Armenian genocide is remembered as the ultimate expression of brutality and dehumanization in the Ottoman Empire. This event not only exemplifies the empire's capacity to implement systematic extermination policies, but also highlights the importance of historical memory and the need to recognize and learn from these atrocious crimes to prevent future human tragedies. The legacy of the genocide is reflected in the persistent struggle of Armenians for international recognition and justice. The families of the victims continue to seek compensation and recognition, while survivors and their descendants work to preserve the memory of their ancestors and educate the world about the horrors they faced. Throughout its more than 6 centuries of existence, the Ottoman Empire stood out for its formidable military power, notable cultural achievements, and, unfortunately, for the implementation of extremely severe punishment methods. These methods, including decapitation, falaka, amputations, and impalement, not only served to sanction offenders, but also helped consolidate the Sultan's authority and maintain social order in a vast and culturally diverse empire. The centralization of power under the Sultan and the support of an efficient bureaucracy allowed the Ottoman Empire to manage its vast territories effectively. However, this administrative efficiency was accompanied by rigidity and severity in the administration of justice, which fostered a reputation for brutality. Methods like public decapitation and falaka not only physically punished individuals, but also had a profound psychological impact on society, acting as visible deterrents to prevent future uprisings. The practice of devshirme, although not a corporal punishment, exemplifies the use of coercive control to maintain loyalty to the sultan, complementing the physical punishment methods. This forced recruitment strategy created a loyal military and administrative elite, minimizing divided loyalties and consolidating centralized power. Events like the suppression of the Jalali revolts and the Armenian genocide illustrate the extreme application of state violence to eliminate threats and maintain imperial stability. The Armenian genocide in particular represents the apex of this brutality, underscoring the devastating consequences of intolerance and extremism.